Hello, and welcome back to the Emagia AI for Finance podcast. I'm your host, Brian Chappell, Director of Content Strategy at Emagia. Today, we have a special treat for you. We have John Donovan with us. John is a seasoned financial services executive focusing on the order-to-cash process and back-office operations. He has effectively managed substantial global accounts receivable portfolios for prominent Fortune 100 and 500 high growth companies during pivotal phases of project development and transition. John operates as an independent consultant now and is frequently engaged by leading consultant firms for his specialized expertise and insights. John has a distinguished record in leading, collaborating with diverse cultures and organizational structures across various industries. He specializes in managing autonomous back office processes, including contract and document management, order management, billing, credit and risk assessment, logistics, fraud prevention, collections, cash application, and dispute resolution management. So all the things that we care about here at Emagia. His commitment to driving operational excellence and strategic innovation positions him as a respected leader in the field. And that's one of the reasons why we reached out to him to be with us today. John, thank you so much for clearing some time in your busy schedule for us. You ready to start up our interview? Okay, great. All right, well, let's just jump right into it and take advantage of the fact that you have a lot of expertise in this area. So, there are obviously, numerous stages of artificial intelligence in business and finance. Why don't you go ahead and just sort of outline the different AI stages for our audience here today?
Sure, be happy to. So first of all, when people talk about artificial intelligence, maybe the nomenclature of artificial intelligence wasn't used, but we go a long way back into what was the beginning of artificial intelligence. And so when an organization says, well, we've got artificial intelligence built in, I guess the first question would be if it's a solution you're building or buying or bolting on or whatever the case may be, that there is different stages of what people refer to as artificial intelligence. So there's reactive machines, and the purpose of that artificial intelligence is to design a response directly to the present situation. And it doesn't really remember any part of the planning for the future. It's just, here's the information, somebody keys it in, and away they go. The integration usually into the application was rules-based. So rules-based means that it's an event that occurs on a regular basis. So rules are established for whoever's using this system to abide by. And if a customer is not abiding by those rules, the system should identify it as it's not acceptable or not working properly. And it's been successfully used for decades, especially in the early expert systems. I always like to use IBM as an example. I spent some time at IBM, and the game playing and their chess expertise, they referred that to artificial intelligence when it was really reactive machine learning. And then they had limitations, of course, like they all do. And it didn't learn anything. It was programmed in, and it made it inflexible and unable to adapt to a new situation. So if a new move was created for whatever reason, a new rule, that had to be looked at, and then the rules had to be set up. Credit reporting and credit financial analysis was really rules-based. Then we went to limited memory systems, which was, again, called AI, and it could store past experiences, and then it used the information for future decisions. I would use Excel as a way of grabbing that information. There were some analytical applications, very expensive and somewhat difficult to work with for the common user, so somebody had to program it in. And the expensive software that was used on the high-end analytics was usually limited to banks and situations where financial analysis was really a part of their day-to-day requirements. Companies didn't use it as much. The integration of the systems and applications using machine learning has come along, and that's where everyone seems to be focusing now. Is the machine is learning from its algorithms that are put in place for a number of years, particularly in ERP systems and credit verification systems that are out there. And the add-on community, like Emagia, has definitely taken advantage of that by building what I call gap software for the ERP systems that didn't go deep enough to help operations. So there was limitations for this as well. And you can learn from historical data and understanding what needed to be improved, but it had to be programmed in. And it often required human intervention to help address the complexity and the unexpected situations or conditions that arrive. In the early days, one of those was chargebacks and dispute management, which became a way of business to really take advantage of the fact that there wasn't enough sophistication in anybody's software. So if somebody didn't pay an invoice, it could say it was disputed, and there was no way to handle it. So dispute management systems is an example of that came into being as a result of that. Aims at developing systems that can understand the attributes of the mental states, the beliefs, the desires, and the intentions of themselves and what others are doing. And that became more popular as the technology improved. However, this is still under development. And if you look at any system today, the potential is there. The natural language processing, which everyone refers to, or robots. I'm saying robots using call systems where you call in and get a robot to answer your questions. And then, of course, there's the human computer interaction that has to follow on. So if somebody called in and wanted to speak, they called the wrong number, wanted to speak to somebody, that call, if they intercepted it, would have to be forwarded to somebody else who may or may not be there. There was no way of tracking who it got forwarded to unless it put notes in the system. So again, it's limited to research and experimental prototypes that we're seeing today, but there's significant advancements in the cognitive science, computer science that are required to achieve this level of sophistication.
So you refer to the evolution of AI over time. What specifically are you referring to there?
Well, artificial intelligence has existed, as I said, for a long time. And it was commonly added to the primary application as either enhancement, homegrown, or purchased as a bolt-on application to meet the operations business requirements. I didn't put in here, but I probably should have, that when the work couldn't be done by the systems and there weren't enough people to handle growing business, a lot of this got outsourced. And the outsourcers are offshore because it was less expensive. That posed a lot of problems for companies because of language barriers and time zones differences. So outsourcing wasn't the answer either. And they didn't have any better level of technology. They just had more people. And so what you saw was from 2000, when the ERPs came into real being because of the year 2000 complications and systems not working, is when people, and I had an organization with over 150 people in it, handling all of the back office operations just on the finance side for credit collections and dispute management. So you can see, the bigger the organization, the more people you had. And even if you did outsource that, it still was an expensive proposition and you had less control. So there's been an upgrading process over the years into the applications solutions. And again, the different AI types in the applications depends on the organization's technical maturity. And the business needs to prioritize and have budgets in order to enhance their systems. And a lot of them did not. And I have a couple of examples, which I kind of smile at when I think back on one company that was converting over the year 2000, couldn't do it. So they made some adjustments internally to make the machines going. And I found out that they were running on Burroughs in 2000, Burroughs computers, and they had a whole warehouse full of spare parts. So as people replace their Burroughs computers with IBM or whatever, they bought up at I call it garage sales, parts so that they could keep on running their business. And others didn't want to spend the money that CFOs had spent years and lots of money, millions of dollars, getting their 2000 systems up and running, and they were inefficient at the very beginning and couldn't run as sufficiently as what they had. But they were all kind of forced to do it. And a couple of companies I know couldn't close their books for 6 months because the integration didn't go well. So there weren't enough people technically adept at putting the new systems up and running. Hopefully that won't happen with AI. But so were rule-based systems, which were reactive machines again, and they had to define explicit rules and conditions so that they could run. And then we went from there to machine learning, and you'd have to train these models on large data sets. They call it a data warehouse or data lake. But getting that information and then verifying it was also problematic. But they learned patterns and they made predictions. And so things started to improve. And again, we progressed into natural language processing and the theory of mind systems, enabling the understanding and the generation of human language. So as that started to come about, natural language processing, which everyone seems to know the acronyms for that now, are definitely more prevalent, but in certain industries, more prevalent than others. And a lot of companies haven't really start getting out of the starting blocks. And then, of course, there's the cognitive infrastructure that advanced AI combines with multiple components and a perception of memory and reasoning to simulate a human-like intelligence. Now, I don't call, of course, I don't have an advanced version of all of the AIs that are out there, but I don't still see human intelligence. I almost call it an insult to call it having human intelligence. It has information and it regurgitates that information. So most advanced artificial intelligence solutions currently reside within a category of limited memory systems. And I call it limited, and I emphasize that it's limited because no conversion to any system that I've ever seen is done overnight. It's over time. The systems employ machine learning techniques to achieve sufficient processing take time. And the proficiency that needs to be recognized, whether it's imaging or natural language processing and recommendations that are made by the system. For example, a follow-up system that says, you've got to call this person. That's available today. But if you don't follow it up, the system doesn't really penalize you for it and it may just send you a reminder, but it's still not sufficient enough to say this needs to get out today and it wasn't done. And here's a report to tell you what you missed. And I've been in organizations where they just push the button, the letters go out, but they aren't even really paying much attention. The system said the account's past due, didn't respond, broke a promise, whatever the case may be. And so the human intelligence still needs to be there right now with the systems that are in place, the ones at least I've seen. And they need to comprehend and reason about the world around them. And the limitation and constraints are for whatever task may be. I don't want to get into all examples, different tasks, but they demand complex problem solving, creativity, and social intelligence still before they'll work efficiently.
Okay, so when looking at an AI solution and application, what tests should be applied to determine, what stage of organization, department, and ecosystem is starting from?
That's a good question. And when you're assessing your AI application capabilities, wherever you are in your organization, whatever the organization has in the way of AI, examining its level of sophistication and the potential short-term and long-term benefits it can offer is beneficial. So you have to do that first. And to effectively gauge the stage of AI it represents, in order to consider employing a series of insight evaluations, the assessment can help illuminate the application strengths and opportunities for growth and guiding information decisions about the development and use going forward. So readiness evaluation, a lot of companies, they want to go down the AI path, but there is a complex process that has to take place. And the organization capabilities are the first thing you have to look at. And whether you're going to you're in, say, reactive machine learning, which is where a lot of companies are today, that do the predefined tasks without learning or adaptation. So if you're going to adapt some new technologies, you're going to move out of the reactive machines and into maybe limited memory capabilities. It's a step process. You can jump to the very end of the process and go from theory of mind, which understands the response to human emotions, intentions, and beliefs, or you can go to self-awareness, which exhibits self-consciousness and an understanding of what exists. The next level, of course, is data requirements. And the data requirements, there's reactive machines require little or no data. If you go to limited memory, it relies on large data sets and training and improvement. And then the theory of mind, which is kind of the last area to dig into your data, is the benefits that from human reactions and social cues that the data has are moving into the self-awareness area. And this makes it unclear today what kind of data would be necessary. So every organization is different. And I'm trying to stay away from examples because I don't want people to think, well, that doesn't apply to me, because in most cases, if you do a deep dive into the organization's data, you're going to learn that there's a lot of false information, missing information, some cases just not correct, and it's an accumulation of years of worth of data collecting, and it may not be right. An example would be the CRM system is maintained by sales, the master files maintained by finance, and the user, if they're on a bolt-on for credit and collections, may be maintaining theirs separately. Although they feed each other, they don't all connect. It's not autonomous. So then you go into learning and the adaptation of relative machines having no learning capability, limited memory, and then theory of mind may be able to learn from the social interactions and adapt the behavior accordingly. But self-awareness is where everyone wants to go. But it's a step process. You'll notice I don't know where an organization might be in the different stages of learning and adaptation, but that is what they have to do. And then the reasoning and problem solving, which becomes more along the lines of artificial intelligence. Again, if you look at the reactive machines, it follows predefined rules, limited memory, it learns patterns. Theory of mind can reason about the mental states of others and make decisions based on an understanding of the data. And of course, again, we talked to self-awareness, and I'm emphasizing this importance because this is where the rubber meets the road. And then the human behavior, which is AI, is again same theories going through all of the steps, but applying these tests can help an understanding of the ecosystem in its current state, and which AI capabilities provide the organization with the highest level of ROI and information. So it's in a data dependency world, and AI is very data dependent, and it could be good or bad data that's going into it, but the cleaner the data, it's going to be, AI is heavily reliant on data, as everyone knows. And hallucinations, people come up with that. Well, hallucinations might be put in there by somebody that wants you to believe something that's not true. It's more on the internet today than it is in the corporate infrastructure, but it's still there, and it's making it is critical to verify the accuracy and the sources of the data to ensure that they are current, complete, and within the legal requirements of the law and accounting standards wherever the system may reside. And there's government regulations. Maintaining the data accuracy and adhering to the relevant standards is essential in an AI application. And today I can tell you there's a lot of systems that are out there that aren't doing any of these things. And again, that's why auditors are in there all the time. What did you miss? What did you do wrong? And why aren't you doing what you should do based on the guidelines and rules? And then prioritizing the data governance and the integrity is a vital to ensuring that the AI initiatives within an organization are founded on clean, accurate, and up-to-date data. Up-to-date means that somebody, and hopefully it's artificial intelligence, is going through the data information and saying there's a disconnect here. You've got the first example of that would be the CRM system gives the name of a person that's responsible on the procurement side, and they're not authorized to sign on behalf of the company unless they get a PO, and there's no PO. And the contract, which is done by the legal departments, says that we don't honor anything without a PO, but the shipment goes out, and then you're not going to get paid until that issue is resolved. So it's really, to get the full benefit, again, you're going to have to gather this information and purify it constantly. So that has to be part of your AI solution.
Okay. So what key strategies would you recommend, as an organization is undertaking this transition and becoming more dependent on AI?
Okay. Well, that question, I can tell you what the strategies are. And I know that anybody that's listening to this is probably saying, boy, what is this going to cost me? Depends on where you want to go, where you are today, what your roadmap is, what your budget is, who has priority on the IT development. And most organizations, without exception, will say, this is how much money you're being given. And as it works its way down the food chain into the finance and the AR departments, the budgets get smaller and smaller. So there's less and less money available. And even if you get the money and it's a project on the drawing board, the IT department may not have the resources to develop it for you or develop it completely. So that's a challenge that everyone's going to be faced. So within the organization, the first thing, because of the dependence on data, there has to be a governance framework, and it has to be working and working well. So you have to establish policies and procedures and implement clear guidelines for the data collection, storage, cleansing, and usage and disposal, because some of that information is old, outdated. You want to make sure that it's current. Leading companies are tackling this responsible AI methodology partly by becoming more cognizant of the governance and the complexity of that information. And when we get into the ecosystem, you can't do it alone. Your partners, trading partners, your vendors all have to have this. Otherwise, you've got a patchwork of initiatives and applications and homegrown quick fixes and manual processes that haven't really even hit the visibility because it took place over years of patchwork again. And when you have a global business, you've got different countries, different accounting systems. So it becomes very difficult to gather all this information. So it takes time and it takes money to do this. And meanwhile, you can develop an AI system, but if you haven't got clean data, no matter how good the programming and the algorithms are, it's going to go out and get bad data. It's not going to do much for you. You have to clean the data. And so you have to assign roles and responsibilities. And every organization that I've been in that has been successful at upgrading or improving their processes had clearly defined roles and responsibilities and leaders in every area. So whether it was a consulting firm or temporaries that were hired with expertise to clean that data, or the accounting firms. And it is, anybody can tell you, it's a massive undertaking the bigger the company is. So you have to conduct regular audits. Now with AI, you can review that information a lot faster and the practices and identify and address systems issues. And there are software applications out there today that do a pretty good job. One that comes to mind, and a large company that was implementing it had almost a year's worth of data and process analysis before they even began an implementation of an upgraded system. It wasn't even AI, but they were so dysfunctional that the only way they could do it is to spend a year. And they pulled a lot of people in to do this, but it was a success story. But it took time, effort, and money. And then the data quality assessment, again, I'm going to use, without naming names, an example here. The data that's analyzed and the characteristics to identify inconsistencies, missing values, and outliers is a problem. And so if you have a reporting agent, a credit reporting agency, and you're pulling a report from that agency, they're not verifying that data for you. They're just getting a download, upload, and there you go. And even if it's your data, if it's not right, what you're going to see on the report coming to you is bad information, and you're going to make bad decisions as a result. So the data validation is really a difficult part, but you have to check it against predefined rules and constraints to ensure that the accuracy and completeness of that data. I'll use, again, the reporting agencies. They get an aging. It doesn't tell you whether that aging that's past due is a result of a dispute or non-payment. It just says it's past due. So you've got incomplete data in that case. It's not bad data, it's incomplete. And there might be, on the accounting side, a ledger entry that says this is return product. Well, it's not. They're not going to penalize it. They're not going to call it past due. They know that it's past due because it's being returned and processed. But again, the data isn't clear, and it's not telling you that. So you're dependent on somebody's information that's incomplete and not clear. So the data cleansing part has to include your trading partners. Otherwise, what you're pulling in is wrong. And then there has to be a data linkage and track the data origin, the document source, the data that's involved in the transformation process. Again, where does it come from? How clean is it? How reliable is it? And that takes a lot of effort. It's not an easy task. And you verify the data's accuracy. Well, how are you going to know that the information is accurate unless you get certification that somebody has audited it on the other end of the transaction? And then you trace the data flow, understand how that data moves through the organization so you can identify any potential risks associated with it. Then there's the legal and regulatory compliance in identifying applicable laws and determining which laws apply and which regulations apply, especially when you're dealing with multiple countries, geographic locations. But even in the United States, taxing authorities will change the rates. If somebody forgets to upload the new tax rates, every invoice that go out is going to have the wrong tax rate. Some of them change the rules on tax exemption. And if you have a tax exemption certificate for one state and it's delivered to another, that's, again, a disputed item because you're charging tax based on where it was sent and there's no paperwork in place. So again, just little things like this can kill an organization and make AI ineffective, at least at the outset. And then there's third-party verifications, whether it's an auditor that's doing it or you've got a team of internal people that review the information that's coming in and evaluate the data providers and assess their credibility and their reliability and their internal processes. That again is a level of cooperation that a lot of companies don't have. Not everyone is prepared for AI. So your trading partners may have all good intentions, but they may not be prepared to give you the information you need to be autonomous. And ensuring that the customers, the vendors, and the suppliers provide certificates and documentation that they are being audited and that the audit is showing that the information you're dependent on is accurate and has been audited. Again, if it's a private company, you may not get that information. So again, your AI systems relies on data that hasn't been verified. And there are standards, no matter what they are, there are always gaps. And the credit scorecards or the creating a scorecard in a particular area, especially in an autonomous organization, you have to measure performance at every level. So if somebody is returning its logistics, their data has to be up to date. If it's accounting that's reserving for returns or allowances, that has to be up to date. Early payment discounts has to be accounted for. And taking unwarranted discounts is another area where, as an example, how do you review that information and give a scorecard at the customer level? AI will let you do it because it's fast, but you've got to put it in place. And there are so many areas that today I would consider weaknesses that need to be addressed. Then there's the data quality and reporting, and having AI without the ability to not get the information so much as have the information available at your fingertips in a format that's easily reviewed and can be passed on to the appropriate parties. Because what good is it if the finance department is looking at all these exceptions, and then the party that's responsible for doing the other part of the task, either it's return goods or maybe rejection of some type of discount because they didn't qualify, that has to be autonomous. And right now it's not in most organizations. Everyone is kind of still standalone. The information's there, but it's not connected. So learn with continuous improvement, learn from your mistakes, analyze the data quality and issues that prevent future occurrences before you put an AI system in place. As part of the process improvement initiatives, ongoing training should be implemented. So can't tell you how many times I've been in an organization and I said to the department, what are your policies and procedures? And I go from desk to desk and everyone's got a different way of doing it. Not that it's wrong, but it's different. So how you say that we have a standardized process when one person is doing it one way and another person's doing it another. So provide regular reports. And the analytical reporting today is so good if you have good data that you can do this just by pushing a button and say, I need to see a scorecard on who's doing the work, who's holding up the process, who's not responding. And that's what you want to know instantaneously, because you can then have the system send out a reminder notice to that person and keep track of it. And when the performance reviews come along, whether it's a scorecard on the customer or vendor or an individual in the organization, you've got something to fall back on. It's not the latest event that occurred that keeps that review from being complete. And then provide the updates on a regular basis. Keep informed about changes in legal and regulatory requirements. And again, this is not easy because, especially a global organization, things change and they change rapidly, and you have to be on top of it. And if you don't have a representative that's doing that in country, you're gonna get an AI system that will have bad data. So adopting these strategies can significantly improve data accuracy and compliance and provide a solid foundation for the AI applications. Even if these strategies are already in place, there's always room for enhancements. By proactively addressing the potential vulnerabilities related to the manipulation, errors, fraud, if there is fraud, and the strengthening of policies and procedures, you can create a more robust and reliable framework for your AI initiatives.